An investigation underway after a horrific tragedy. 6 people killed in a helicopter crash in New York's Hudson River. The pilot and a family of 5 visiting from Spain, including 3 young children, were all killed. It's horrifying what happened. The video of what seemed to happen to understand what even went wrong is really incomprehensible, as that helicopter was coming down. I'll warn you, it's disturbing here. You can see how fast the helicopter came down. Upside down as it crashed into the river, and at the top of the screen on the left you can see the debris that flew up as the chopper came down. And then we also have a piece of video, very important to understand what happened here, where you can see a big piece of the helicopter actually splitting up into the air after the chopper was coming down, almost as if it had broken apart. The air traffic control audio, you can hear the chaotic moments right as this happened.
River traffic, be advised. You do have an aircraft down Holland Tunnel. Please keep your eyes open for anybody in the water. Please keep your eyes open. You guys see anything in the water, please let us know. All right, we're just circling over Holland now.
Bryn Gingras is out front. She has been live at the crash scene since this happened. Bryn, and you know, at first we had heard people were coming off, maybe in critical care, but going to a hospital. There was hope. Of course, this has ended in a horrific tragedy. What are you learning?
I mean, yeah, Erin, and you see that video and you just get a gut punch. We're here on the scene where there's still people, rescue crews out there, of course, not performing any rescues at this point. All those bodies were taken out of the water, but this investigation very much underway. The NTSB, the FAA, as part of this investigation, and you just described it for your viewers there. Witnesses called 911, many of them describing how pieces of that helicopter came off of the body of the helicopter, crashing into the water before the helicopter went into the water upside down, so inverted, meaning the cabin was up. Likely that might have helped first responders get to those people who were on board, those 6 people. And I want you to hear from officials talk about the life-saving efforts that they made at that point.
We were met by the first responders and they told us they did everything they can to try to save these victims. And you can see the trauma in their face. They did everything they can.
Yeah, 6 people on board, including a pilot and a family of 5 traveling here to New York City from Spain. What we understand is that helicopter took off for a tourist flight, which of course is so very common along the skyline here of New York City and of course here on the New York and New Jersey side. They took off from Lower Manhattan and traveled north, getting sights of the Statue of Liberty, of the skyline of Manhattan, heading north to the George Washington Bridge before turning back down and following the New Jersey side of the Hudson River here before crashing down in the air for a total of 16 minutes. Of course, so many questions still, Erin, of exactly what caused it to go down, still unanswered at this point.
Just so horrible. Bryn, thank you very much. All right, former Black Hawk pilot Brad Bowman is out front because he's flown this exact model of helicopter involved in this crash tonight. Brad, just unbelievable to imagine those last moments, and I'm sure, it's really hard to even think about it. As you try to understand what happened here, if we look at it, it appears to be going down at about a 45-degree angle, and then there's a moment where we appear to be looking at a broken propeller. You hear they're in the air for 16 minutes, and then something like this happens. What does it tell you from what you're seeing as to what could have gone wrong?
Thanks, Erin. It is very difficult to watch the video and consider that 6 people lost their lives, and our thoughts are, of course, with their families, and we want to let the investigation play out. But when I look at the video, the key things to see here is that you have parts of the helicopter already separating long before it impacts the water. And that includes the rotor blades, of course, the tail boom and tail rotor and the main rotor blades. And there's several reasons why that could occur. One reason would be that you would have inappropriate maintenance or part failure due to fatigue of a particular part, corrosion. You can have collision with other objects or engine failures. Those are just 5 or 6 examples of what can cause the rotor blades, the main rotor blades or the tail rotor, to fail and separate. And then obviously when that happens, then that's not good.
You know, the helicopter was a Bell 206, as I said, something that you have flown, that exact model. And you also have flown this exact route over the Hudson in a Black Hawk, actually just 2 weeks before 9/11. So you know the route and you know the aircraft. You know, I'm sure you've been exactly where this has happened. The Bell 206 in this particular crash tonight, we understand from the FAA, and this is just what we're finding out, Brad, was built in 2004. And its airworthiness certificate had been issued in 2016. That was good all the way until 2029. So you mentioned maintenance as a possible thing, and obviously we don't know until we know. But when you look at that information that we have, what are you focusing on right now?
You know, I'm eager to see what the NTSB and FAA conclude, and I would definitely want to look at the maintenance records on this particular aircraft. I flew an Army version of the Bell 206, which was much older, and this was a more modern, upgraded version with more capabilities. But I definitely would want to look at the maintenance log books to see what might explain a mechanical failure that was this catastrophic and resulted in this horrible end.
It's just a horrible end. All right, Brad, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.